Hi everyone. First of all, I'd like to thank you all for joining us on this webinar today. We hope that you all find it beneficial and you can take some practical information from it. To start things off, I'm going to give you a quick introduction of who is with me on the call today. First of all, I'm Donald O'Neill and I'm the Marketing Manager for Clonwilliam Health, and I'll be emceeing the webinar today. With me, I have Ahmed Khan, our Service Delivery Manager, Michael Burns, who's our Head of Practice Services, and finally, Colin O'Connor, who is the Operations Director for Clonwilliam Group and currently acting DPO. So today it's going to run as follows. This is your introduction, where Ahmed is going to take you through a quick demonstration of the functionality of GDPR Sentinel. Michael will talk to you about the encryption and provide you an overview and further information on that. Then Colin is going to talk about Clonwilliam Health's internal GDPR activities and preparations and what we've done as a company to make sure that we're compliant. We'll take some questions after each of the sections, and then just to try and keep things on track, we'll do, in terms of time, we'll do questions and answers at the end. So if you do have any questions, please submit them using the questions button on your GoToWebinar browser, and as I said, we'll do our best to get them through. But look, if we don't answer your question, please do email it to gdpr@clonwilliamgroup.com and we'll do our best to get back to you on that. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Ahmed, who's going to give you a demonstration of the GDPR Sentinel functionality.
Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. So the bits I'm going to cover on the functionality, let me just get back to the one I need. It's going to be the password complexity, the GDPR Sentinel module, which then includes the patient tracker, the patient data export, patient auditing, the new option within the patient details, and the right to be forgotten. So if we go straight into the password complexity, so if you're installed on a local PC or laptop, just on your own hardware, local network, next time you go to change your password, the system will now prompt you to have the minimum complexity. The reason we've not done this on our hosted servers is because you're already logging in with multi-factor authentication. So you use a key fob and a PIN. So when you go to change your password from the quick menu, change password, so you type in your existing password. Oops, okay. And then if you type in your new password, if it doesn't meet the minimum requirements, when you click OK, the system will pop up with a message just advising you the minimum requirement. So it's a minimum of 8 characters and it has to have a special character in it. So, you know, an exclamation mark, a hash, or an @ sign. So you click OK and it takes you back in and you just type in the password with the minimum requirements on there. So that's pretty straightforward. We recommend that everybody changes their password because a lot of users will just have the generic ones that they've just been using over time. So if you want a local one, it's really important that you change that password so that it comes into the complexity. So if you do accidentally leave your PC open, when anyone goes to it, they'll have to put in the password for Practice Manager, which will be a more complex one than the current ones. Okay, so moving on to the next option, so the GDPR Sentinel module. So that's all within the patient menu. So we come down, you'll have a new option here called Patient GDPR. So there's a couple of options within here. So the first one is the patient consent. This is something that's going to be coming in on phase 2. It's just in the final bits of development at the moment. But what this is going to let you do is going to, if I click back into there, sorry. So it's going to be an option where you can go into the preferences and you can define your own types of consent. So you can have up to 10 in here, and to do them, it's just if I click cancel on here for a second, it's within the miscellaneous menu, preferences, down to patient preferences. There's a new button at the bottom down here called consent for user defined fields. So if we click into here and you can type out what you'd like the different types of consent to be. So in my one here, I've loaded in a couple already for SMS, email, fax, post, and telephone. So once you've typed them here, you click OK, click OK again, and then we go back to the patient menu along the top, down to patient GDPR, patient consent. So you'll then be presented with this screen. So we search our patient exactly as we normally do. So we click the magnifying glass at the end, select the patient we'd like to work on, and then it gives us these options within here. So on this screen, we can put the date that we've obtained the consent. So you've got the arrows here. You'll also then have the calendar as normal, and then the method you can just type into. It's just a free text box, and then if they've revoked that, you can tick the date that they've revoked it. Also, it's currently not visible here. There'll be a magnifying glass here at the end, and it will give you the option to view the forms. So that's just going to be on the second phase as well, and that's then going to take you to the previous correspondence where you can then import a letter, or you can scan in a document and you can save it against the patient's record. And then if I click OK on here, it just comes back, and that will save that in the patient's details. And I will come to it shortly where you can also access it from within the patient details. Okay, so the next option then within that patient, GDPR, we have the data export. So what this will be used for is when you get a subject access request. So it will save you a lot of hours. So you just come into here, exactly the same as normal. We search the patient we need, click the magnifying glass at the end, select our patient. So what this is going to do is going to scan within all the databases within the system, and it's going to give you a data export that you can then email or copy to a USB and provide to the patient. So if I click OK on here, just asks me the location. So it's already created an Alan Abbott folder. So I'm just going to click Save in here, and it will default to your My Documents. So then you just need to leave it for, depending on how large the patient is, how big their record is, it might just take a minute or so just to run through this. Okay, when it's complete, it will ask me if I want to view these files. So we can just click Yes, I'd like to view. And then that takes me to the My Documents into the Alan Abbott folder. And you can see here it's giving me an export of all the patient's letters. So this patient's just got the 3, but if they had any more, it would just list all of them in PDF format for you. You also get a report. So if I double click on this report, within here, it then just gives you the complete printout. So it gives you the addresses, the telephone numbers, the email addresses that you hold on record for them, all the urgent notes, any allergies. So it's literally just gone through the whole system and just put it all into this one document for you. So the appointments they've come in for, the operations, if you use patient notes, it will list all the patient notes in here as well. So it's quite a thorough export. It may seem like some of the options are already there, but it just makes it so much easier because we did a test and it took us a good hour to try and get all this information manually from all the databases. So that will save everyone a lot of time. Okay, so just come out of that one. Okay, so the next up, we then go down to, back to patient details this time. So I'm going to go to patient details. I'm going to bring up our patient. So all the options I've just shown you from the main menu are also available in here. So normally you'd have EPR at the end, but now we've moved GDPR to be at the end up here. So it's the last one. And within here, you've got the consent, you've got the patient export. So all the options that you can normally do. So you don't have to come out of the patient to do it. You can just do all of this stuff from within here. So when you're registering the patient, you'd come into consent and you can capture all the consent in here as well. Okay, so we'll just click cancel on there. Okay, so the next one is I'll show you the right to be forgotten from within here. So if I click on here, okay, so that option is just not coming up at the moment, but what I'll do is I'll just show you it from this screen here. So what that's going to do is going to give you an option to completely delete that patient. So that will just go through all the databases, delete all the letters, all the invoices, anything that you've got on this patient's record. It gives you the option to delete them. So the software is compliant for you. If you have to abide by a patient's request to do this, you can come in here and you can just delete it. But it is in big red letters because once it's done, it's done. Unfortunately, there's no reversing that. It won't be anywhere to get that back. So it'll just be straight from there. It'll be gone. Okay, so I think that's about it for myself. Is there anything, or are there any questions before we move on?
That's great. Yeah, thanks, Emmett. That was really useful. We've had a couple of questions in, all right. First of all, will the delete patient function completely remove a patient and all their accompanying files? And how does this affect that I have to legally keep medical records?
Yes, it will completely delete the record. Because we can't. It's not like a soft delete. It'll be completely gone. The customer has a legal obligation to keep medical records for a set amount of time. So they don't have to delete it, but it's best they check with the Information Commissioner's office, on where they stand. But yeah, from the understanding of GDPR, if you've got a legal obligation to keep that data, you don't have to delete it.
Sure. And then there's another question here about can we track the date that the subject access request was made and when it is due? So that's around the 30 days that you have to comply with the subject access request. So can we track that within DGL?
Currently not, but it's on the roadmap, and it's going to be on. Like I mentioned phase 2. So on phase 2, then you'll be able to track the date the request was made, and then it will kind of give you the date, like the date it's due by as well. Then also we're going to build a report off that, so you can then run a report on all patients to see, when if there's a lot you're waiting to do, you'll be able to run them all from one place. I should have also mentioned, sorry, on the consent tracker, there's also going to be a report added in the next phase where you can go and run a report of all the different types of consents and stuff. So there's going to be a report off the back of that as well.
Excellent, excellent. And then finally, this might be one for you, Colin, but it's a question around how do we actually obtain patients' consent? Can we get it verbally, or is there a letter that we should use, or how does that whole process work?
Yeah, I mean, our practice internally would be that it's a written consent and proof of ID. I mean, if you're going to take it over the phone, you have to verify who you're speaking to is legitimately the person. So typically, just as in a data subject access request, you want to verify that you're going to do it, and you're doing it for the correct person who's asking for it, in case there's any fraud or something suspicious going on. So I'd recommend a form signed with an ID. But each has their own internal practices on that. But I definitely wouldn't take it over just a phone call.
Okay, that's great. And now, Ahmed, if you want to pass it on to Michael, we'll move on to the egress section.
Yeah, cool. There's just one point that I'd just like to cover before I go back, sorry.
Sure,
so just on the patient, in that GDPR, there is the patient audit trail. Sorry, I missed that one at the end.
No worries.
Click on here. So what that lets you do is you'd search the patient's name at the top. And then you'll get a list of all the information that's been done on this patient, and you've got the option then at the top to export that and stuff if you want to, just for your own records and stuff, to see who's been accessing the patient, who added them and who edited it and stuff as well. So that option's there as well.
Excellent. Okay.
Cool. So I'll just pass on to Michael now. Okay, over to you, Michael.
Thanks, Ahmed. Afternoon, everybody. So I'm just going to quickly go through, as part of our Sentinel offering, we're also providing customers with Egress licenses. So Egress Switch Secure Email specifically, and file transfer. It's an email and file encryption platform that offers users the highest level of security in email and file transfer, and it's something we, I guess, decided to embark on based on feedback we were getting from customers a number of months ago. It offers the solution as both an Outlook plugin, so a nice plugin that can plug into Microsoft Outlook. You'll see down here what it looks like. For those of you that haven't seen it, I know some of you are very familiar with it. So it does offer a nice plugin into Microsoft Outlook. It also has a web portal that will allow you to actually just log into a portal and send secure messages over that. It gives you large control over the content of the messages and the attachments. It provides total control over shared information in real time. It gives you the ability to revoke access, to audit user actions, and to add message restrictions to prevent mishandling of that particular information. The software is free for recipients to use, and And obviously this makes sharing information easier by allowing the recipient of the secure mail or the large file to respond to the sender free of charge as many times as they like. And one caveat is that obviously assuming that the original sender is a paid subscriber of the actual platform. And once that is the case, the free user of Switch can communicate securely using Switch to any other paying subscribers as well. So as part of the Sentinel package, we're offering 2 Egress licenses. So typically, maybe for a consultant email address and the secretary email address or the practice email address. If you require more, which I know many of you do, and we're getting still getting lots of requests in, they can be provided at an additional cost, but that's no problem. We can provide as many as you want, really. At this stage, we have captured, I hope, the majority of email addresses, although speaking with Donald, I think they are still coming in. We are in the process of setting these up in our platform, on the Egress platform at the moment. If you are on our hosted platform, so you use a key fob, let's say, to access the application, there's nothing further for you to do in terms of that. We will facilitate the install of the Outlook plugin. We have captured your email address. We've done all the work in terms of in the background, what we need to do in terms of capturing your email on the Egress platform. Once it's ready to be rolled out, you will see the icon then appear on the actual on your Outlook plugin on the platform. In terms of the only difference, I guess, is if you're a local user. So if you're a local user and don't access our platform, you will need support of maybe your local IT to install the Outlook plugin to avail of it. We've sent on I think a link to the actual plugin itself, but obviously we can continue to send out comms in relation to how best practice to install that as well. So in terms of what happens next, over the coming days, you will, as I said, we're in the process of rolling out. So over the coming days, you will be sent an email invitation to the registered email address that you have provided. Once you receive the email, it's a simple one-click activation. As I said, we have the majority of the work done on the background to capture the information that we require to make it active and make it go live. You will, once you are clicked on, if you know what I mean, if you activate it, you are then asked to re-enter your Switch ID, which will be the registered username, and it will prompt you then to enter in a new password, and that will be your password then going forward for use of the actual application. I would ask customers to be patient with us. Our plan, we would hope to have it all rolled out to everybody by I think our communication said the 31st of May. We have started the process of rolling it out, but due to the fantastic response to the campaign, it will take us a number of days to just get it deployed to all users. So I just ask for their patience as we roll this out.
That's great. Thanks, Vinny, Michael. We've had a huge amount of questions in, so I'm just going to try and pick a few to get through before we hand it over to Colin. So first of all, if I wanted to change the email address that I've registered for encryption, what do I need to do?
Yeah, that's no problem in terms of we can just do that at the background, so in the back end of the system. So if you contact the support desk and you've already provided us with his email address and you want to change that, just contact the support team and we can make the necessary changes on our end.
Excellent. And then just to follow up, what should I do if after a week I still haven't received the egress option?
Contact the support team. I think what we might do, Donald, just for everybody in terms of the communication, we will send a couple of comms over the next couple of days to let users know how far we're on with it. And I would say if you haven't, let's say, received it by the 31st of May, to let us know, because as I said, our plan is to have everybody up and running in the next week or so.
That's great. And just to echo that, if you haven't sent us in the email addresses that you want to do so, please go to gdpr.dglpm.co.uk, and that's a form where you can submit all of the details that we need to set you up and get you up and running with the egress encryption. So once again, that's gdpr.dglpm.co.uk. And that would let you complete it, and that'll go straight to our customer support team, who are working on getting through it at the moment. So that was great, Michael. I think we'll pass it over to Colin now, who's going to talk about what we have done internally in terms of our own GDPR preparation.
Okay. Michael, will you swap over to me? Perfect. That's great. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So my role in Clonwilliam Health has been to look at our GDPR requirements, and at the moment I am the acting DPO and have been for the last 12 months. Over 18 months ago, we started a gap analysis looking at all of our current policies and procedures to ensure that they were could be brought up to speed with the GDPR requirements, because a lot of what we had in place was applicable to the old law. After that, so we actually, to do that, we brought in a specialist company who works solely in GDPR, and we're able to go through and interview our customer service, sales, marketing, our line managers, finance, and so on, just to see where all the gaps were. Following on from that, we implemented a GDPR management system tool for the entire company so that we could distribute staff training and awareness programs, which went into details around what is GDPR, what are data subject access requests, keeping data safe, data breach and how to recognize what a breach is, consent management, and minimizing what we effectively store in terms of data, and how we actually destroy data retention, which is quite important. So following on from that, we started to look at our risks in terms of what we process. So as your supplier, we are your data processor. So we had to look at all the touch points effectively where we interface with, and that might be the hosting environment, the emails, which Michael had talked about earlier, building new functionality into the product so that it made it easier for us to facilitate your requests to meet your own GDPR requirements. And in doing so, we looked at where risks lie. So any risk at a data center level, cybersecurity, backups, and internally how we actually take data. We try to minimize what we record so that there's no risk to breach. We also look at how we destroy our own data internally. You know, we write information on A4 pads all the time for customer cases. We destroy those and shred them. Information like that is destroyed quite quickly. We have a policy around it, and a clear desk policy, so that information isn't left lying around, and that we're not storing confidential information on PCs. In the event that we are working with confidential information, we've implemented encryption across the company. So all of our laptops, desktops, servers are encrypted with DesLock, and that gives us the ability to also remote wipe those machines in the event any of them are ever breached or stolen. To facilitate our GDPR needs going forward, we have hired a full-time DPO whose role will be exclusively to continue to work on our compliance, train staff, look at where the risks are and how to mitigate them, update our policies, and also handle any specific questions from customers that are that go beyond, I suppose, the reach of some of our customer service and teams. We also looked at our marketing and sales processes and how we store your information for sending out newsletters and product updates and so on. So our cookie policy has been updated, our privacy statement has been updated on our website, and so they're all compliant with GDPR. And also, as part of our data processing requirements, we also have sub-processors who facilitate our services, and that might be our data center, our suppliers like Egress now, and others who are involved in the DGL product. So we we take an approach with them to make sure that they also are complying with GDPR and have the correct insurance in place and the correct procedures, and that training is done so that anybody whose interfaces with our systems are GDPR compliant.
Excellent. That was great. Thanks, Colin. So we've had a lot of questions in, but I'm conscious of time, so we're just going to run through a few, as many as we can. And again, if your question isn't answered, please email gdpr@clonwilliamgroup.com and we'll do our best to answer it for you. So first off, there's a question around Egress, Michael, and this is, will recipients like patients need to subscribe to Egress themselves to be able to open emails with attachments that are sent using Egress?
Yes, but once they do, that's it. It's a one-off process. And again, once they are registered, it's free for the end user to actually sign up and register.
And to read the emails, really, isn't it? So that
exactly,
they'll just have to create a username and password themselves to read it. But again, they'll get an email that says, basically, here are the steps that you need to follow, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just in terms of making sure that the recipient is the actual recipient that should have received it. But once that initial, if you like, verification takes place, then it's a seamless process after that.
And again, it is a good thing because it shows the patient that the email, that their data is encrypted and secure for them. So, you know, if you are receiving questions on it, you can say that this is part of GDPR and this is what we're doing to make sure that your data is secure and safe. Right, moving on. A question around what sort of emails should we encrypt? So not sure if Colin or Michael, you want to take this one, but it's sort of looking at, do we need to encrypt, say, your standard appointment email, or is it only when we are sending maybe copies of a scan or something like that?
Yeah,
I guess, like, from, I don't know, Colin's probably better.
I mean, I can take that if you want. I mean, anything that contains really personal information, and that when I mean personal information is anything that's obviously your customers, patients. Even an appointment reminder will have the patient's information on it, possibly their number, the date of their appointment, and the type of clinic they may be attending, which, you know, if intercepted, could interpret that what type of treatment they're going for. Definitely anything with scans, referral information, discharge information, letters back to GPs, that kind of information should not go through Gmail, Hotmail, Yahoo, or any of those other providers, because also those providers don't store your information in the UK, though they'll be bouncing around on servers in the US and everywhere else. So you just got to take an approach that if it contains your patient's information in it, try to or use some sort of anonymization maybe if you had to, but ideally encrypt it.
Excellent. Okay, thanks, Colin. One more. Can Egress be used on an iPhone?
It can. There is an app that is actually have it on my own iPhone. So there is an app that is compatible with iPhones and other with Android as well. And if you have to use it, you would need to have your Outlook or your email stored on your phone as well, in terms of your account, your email account on your phone. So when you download and the Switch app, it will, when you go to send a message, it will ask you which email account you want to use to send it. But yeah, there is an app for that.
Excellent. Okay, and look, that brings us to the end of the webinar. Thank you very much, everybody, for attending. Apologies, I know there was a lot of questions there that we didn't get through, but hopefully we've done our best to show as many as we possibly can. This webinar will be made available to all of you to view afterwards. And as I said before, if you have any further questions, please do email us at gdpr@clonwilliamgroup.com. And again, thanks everyone for attending and taking part. Bye.